What's going on, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video. I will be reacting to I almost said three true, what the hell? Like, three true cemetery horror stories to give you goosebumps. I think I mentioned this before. When I was a kid in fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, I lived in a place called Marionette Park, or if you're from Chicago, Marinette Park. Marinette Park. And it was I think it was 4 cemeteries surrounded my apartment complex. I remember it was one in front of us, it was one beside us, on the far side of the apartment complex. It was an empty field across that. They used to grow, I think, corn or some shit over there. I remember it was like a tractor over there, and I remember it used to grow, like, in the summer it used to be big, tall. I could have sworn they were like corn. I can't remember. But then there was another cemetery, and this is if you looking from my apartment complex, like forward. I don't know if it was north side, but it was just like looking forward. And on the other side was another. These are big cemeteries too. And over on the other side of that, we're right next to the apartment complex, right next to my building, blocked by a fence and a little bit of grass on our side. Was a tombstone making place. And on the other side of the street, it was another cemetery, but it was a much smaller cemetery. I think it was like a private cemetery. And then on the other side, that was like a neighborhood. And then behind me was the school I went to for 4th and 5th grade. And then behind that, in between, well, not in between, but the school in between my apartment complex and a neighborhood behind that, or behind us. So yeah, and I remember at night sometimes it would be, especially in the summer, it would be like full moon and it would be like fog. What the hell? See that dust? Or, I don't know why I looked that way. Should have right over the camera. But it was like a fog and it was like full moon, and you could see the like the mist, or I didn't mist, the fog, like just above the ground, probably like a foot above the ground, and it always looked hard. That was back when I used to have a horrifying fear of the dark. Like, I mean, it was horrible. Like, I couldn't even go in, like, I couldn't walk around in dark. I had to fall asleep with the TV on because I couldn't have the light on. My dad was like, "You turn that light off." But even though he closed his door a lot back then, the bedroom door. But I used to sleep with the TV light on because I slept in the living room and on the pull-out couch. And I remember having to sleep. And then when if I woke up at night, because I'd always catch a cramp in my damn leg sleeping on that damn pull-out couch. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I wouldn't even be thinking about the dark because I have a fucking cramp. But as soon as that cramp would go away, I'd jump up walking, I'd get horrified. And I would freeze. But I got over that eventually. But anyway, and also I think at the end of this I'll tell a little story about when I went into one of those cemeteries over there with some friends of mine at night. I think I might have been in the 6th grade when I did that, but maybe it was 5th. But yeah, I just happened to see it. I've had this on my computer for at least a week, and or maybe 2. And cause I saw when I think Mr. Nightmare first uploaded, it was up, and I think it had been up like 15 minutes, and I downloaded it. I was gonna react then, but I just never did. And finally get to it. I saw this, and the only reason I really wanted to react to it because I lived surrounded by cemeteries and a tombstone making facility right next to me for like 3 years. A little bit over 3 years. A little bit over 3 years before I moved. But Anyway, let's get into this like 13 minutes. So here we go. I thought my heart stopped
When I was
yesterday.
19,
I was like,
my friend Sean, who was a big goofball, came over to chill in the basement as he often would during the summer. I remember he had a Coke bottle in his hand, and I was eating
shit, I
Wendy's.
think these
and he
earphones
said we
going
should
out.
check
I'm
out
starting
that
to hear
crazy little
static when I
cemetery across
adjust the
town.
volume in them.
It was the most random idea ever, and I even told him that. Still, we had no school the next day, and I knew exactly which cemetery he was talking
It
about.
almost sounds like my
Even though
story.
one should even call it a regular cemetery, it's just a small plot of land with maybe 100 tombstones at most. The tombstone's very archaic looking, and any time we'd pass, there would be no signs of anyone having come to visit within the last decade. The site probably dated back centuries, and it had this super creepy vibe to it because it was closed off by a gothic metal fence, and it was surrounded by woods on two sides, the road on one, and some old abandoned building on the other. Everything about it just gave scary vibes. It took a little persuading.
It's a
but
cemetery
Sean
not
managed to
too
get
far
on
from me
to
that's
check it out
like
too.
that. Like this. It's
Ironically, it was a
private.
very cloudy, wettish kind of day. I guess conveniently adding to the mood. Sean pulled up his Honda to the side of the road. I told him to pull up more so it wasn't
How lucky
obvious.
he is Honda.
This was a low traffic road, so
Oh, you
it
gotta
looked
dig
kind
at
of
him like that.
suspicious.
Honda's a good car though. Some
We
Honda.
pulled up a few hundred feet down the road, and we got out and cut through the woods so that any potential passing traffic wouldn't see us entering the little cemetery. Hopping the fence in the woods was easy. It was maybe a 3 or 4 foot fence. Sean kind of took the lead on this since it was mainly his venture. He led us through the eerie little plot of land, and we looked at the archaic tombstones. They all seemed to be from the 19th century. The writing on some of them was illegible at that point. I know it sounds super dumb and cliche, but I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched constantly. I started looking around the surrounding woods.
Well, that's cliche in movies,
Sean
not
how
real
creepy this
life.
was. I know, he replied. Still, with the feeling of being watched, I looked at the abandoned building next to the cemetery, at one of the windows. For a brief moment, I knew I saw someone standing at the
Of
window.
course,
I could
somebody's
through
in
the
the fucking
fog,
window.
smudge, and dirt on the glass. They casually either ducked or walked away from the window. I told Sean we were being watched by someone in that building, and he turned to look at it as well. Then he went to look for the entrance to it. I told him don't. I said we should just leave before we get in trouble. I stayed still by the tombstone he was looking at while he walked around the building, and then he found a way in. He called me over, but I stayed put.
He said, fuck that.
Then I heard some loud kind of crack. I looked in that direction,
Shit.
and there was this older man, probably around
That was the
55.
ghost. Picking my
Gray
nose.
hair, had on a black raincoat. I believe he was wearing jeans, and he had a mustache. But that's all I really got of him. Then he opened his mouth and screamed. Not just yelled, he screamed, "Get out." He screamed it so loud I thought I saw birds fly away from being startled. And just like that,
Yeah,
I started to feel
crow.
lightheaded, and suddenly everything went dark. The next thing I remember was
Fuck, got
waking
a
up to being
canary
dragged
cry or
through the
something?
woods. I freaked out, thinking I was being kidnapped. But when I turned and got up, I saw it was just Sean. Sean was freaking out about something. He told me to follow him and run back to the car, so I didn't ask questions. As we ran through the woods, I heard something close behind me, and when I turned, I realized we were being followed by someone, so I ran even faster. We got to his Honda, and he basically put it in drive before the car even had a chance to fully start. When Sean was inside that abandoned
That's
building,
not good for
he found a
the.
sigil of Baphomet painted
transmission.
on the wood floor,
I
which is
think.
basically the sign of Satan. Around it were a bunch of freaky dolls with buttons for eyes. He didn't get to see anything else in the building, because he heard the old man scream at me outside. He came running to find me passed out on the floor, and he saw the old man slowly walking over to me. He started to drag me away from the old man
He's
into
about
the
to
woods.
about
He
fuck
actually
you up.
literally picked me up and threw me over the fence to get me out. I quickly came back to consciousness, and that's when we ran. I had only fainted one time in my life, and it was at that moment. I don't know why I fainted, but it
I was
happened
about to
at a
say, is
graveyard
he-
with some kind of satanic ritual
Like,
building right
like
next
a
to it?
fainter?
Makes it that much stranger.
because I was like, okay, this isn't some supernatural thing. But now I'm like, okay, I guess it's supposed to be some supernatural. Dude just screams and you faint. Like, but he said
My grandpa
he's
passed
not
away
a
a few years
fainter,
ago.
so
I was always very close with him. This past July, on his birthday, I paid him a visit at the cemetery. The cemetery he and my grandma chose to be buried at was about an hour drive from my apartment. My family lived closer, so they all went to his grave together. I had to go separately. It was a rainy, depressing day, and there's nothing worse than visiting a cemetery on a gloomy day. The gatekeeper of the gate asked for the plot number.
why would
I
you
gave it to
go
him and he let me
there in
in.
the rain?
It's a pretty big cemetery, and I'd only been there a couple other times. Not as the driver, though, so I had a hard time finding it. I didn't see many other people, if any, at the cemetery that day. I'm sure the weather had something to do with it. Eventually, I found his stone and parked my car in the grass to the side. I put some flowers down under his stone, stood there for a while with my eyes closed, and prayed. When I finished my prayer, I opened my eyes and looked up. There was an old man standing about 5 rows of graves down,
Of
directly across
course.
from me. He was looking right at me. I knew this man, though. It was my grandfather. But no, it
No,
couldn't
it's
be.
not.
I rubbed my eyes, and he was gone.
Your grandfather's
Did I
dead,
just have
son.
a spiritual moment? Or were my eyes and mind playing tricks on me? Either way, I got the chills and I had goosebumps. I was quite honestly freaked out. I got back in my car, said, "Love you, Grandpa," and drove off. I felt like I had a headache on my way home. Not sure why. I was the only car on Prospect Road, a quiet road with dense forest on either side. Commonly, there would be deer crossing here. As my car zipped down the road, I spotted someone on the side of the road coming up, which was odd. There were no sidewalks or a walking path on this road. I slowed down. Couldn't be. Looks like my grandpa again. When I realized this, my heart dropped 1,000 feet, and I swerved the car accidentally. I desperately tried to regain control and come to a stop. Luckily, my car didn't end
Your
up in a tree,
grandfather is
rather just
like
skidded out
an
in the middle
evil
of the road
spirit
until coming
supposed
to
to
a
be.
halt.
That's
I
fucked up.
immediately looked back to where I saw him.
That make you want
I
to
saw a deer on the
research
side
the
of the
history
road,
of your
looking at
grandpa.
my car.
Like, was he a bad person
My heart was racing. I
if we
was
didn't know
terrified.
about?
I was not well. I needed
Did
to
he eat
get home.
people? Like, what
Made
the
sure
fuck?
no cars were coming and got back in my lane. I focused on the road as best I could given what I had just seen twice. I felt weird the rest of the day. Not sick, but something wasn't right with my head. I went to bed early after watching an episode of my show. I woke up at like 2 in the morning to my phone ringing. It was an unknown number. My heart started racing again. Any call at this hour couldn't be good news. I accepted the call and put the phone up to my ear. There was static on
He
the
better
other
than me. I
end.
don't even answer calls that
Finally,
way.
I said, "Hello?" More static. But what I thought I heard next, I couldn't believe. Just briefly, for maybe half a second, I thought I heard my grandpa's voice over the static.
Is this some in that window? When that lightning struck. Or maybe that's just a cloud.
I tried to say hello again, but I was too shook. Every part of my body was actually shaking. Then the call cut to silence and ended. I called my phone provider the next day to trace the number. They couldn't. They didn't have enough data to trace it, apparently. I don't know if that was just bullshit or not.
They ain't have enough data.
The
That
events
sounds
that
like
took place
bullshit.
that day and night were the scariest I've ever experienced. Do I think my dead grandpa was trying to contact me? I don't know, because that sounds ridiculous. You'd think if you experienced something like this, you'd be so full of emotion and joy. But no,
Yeah, but your
it still
grandpa's
terrifies me.
doing
I
spooky
really still
shit.
don't know what to think or how to feel about it. Whether it sounds ridiculous or not, this happened. And I wonder almost every other night, was that really my grandpa on the phone?
See, that's why I couldn't. I hope that ghosts aren't real. Because if I'm a ghost, I'm going to be doing shit just like this. I'm going to be fucking with people so bad.
My friends and I were very stupid when we were teenagers.
You better hope I can't move
I was
shit.
like 17
Oh,
or 18 when this happened.
You getting a
It was the month
table
of October.
or a chair
I
up
wanted
to
to
your
do
back.
something scary in the spirit of Halloween. There's a small cemetery about 10 minutes from where I live. And when I was drunk.
Especially
with a couple
those
friends.
ghost hunters.
I
Oh, I'm
said
gonna
we
fuck
should
them
sneak
up.
into it. I'll make up some names for my friends, Ryan and Mike. We were at Ryan's house. He didn't drink ever. So when I came up with the idea, he was the one to drive us to the cemetery. Mike and I were really the ones leading this. Ryan was just along for the ride. But then again, he hadn't been drinking. Ryan parked in some parking lot across the street. It was a ghost town because it was past midnight at that point. We made sure no one was around to see us as we hopped a fence into the cemetery. It wasn't exactly pitch black out, but it was slightly hard to see more than 10 feet in front of us. So we were all using our iPhone flashlights. There didn't appear to be any night security in the cemetery, so we kind of dispersed from each other. Ryan seemed to be following Mike more closely. I could still see where they were because of their flashlights. I went off a little further on my own, and I decided I'd start taking a creepy video. So I started recording with the light still on, of course. I recorded a bunch of old headstones and the general eerie vibe of the cemetery at night. I didn't see Mike and Ryan anymore, so I started to go look for them, still recording. I looked at my phone screen and froze. There was a woman, dressed in a white gown or dress, I want to say, with long, gray-looking hair. She was looking down at the ground. I looked up from my phone screen to look at her in person, but she was gone. I started to back away. I looked back at my phone screen, and there she was again. Only now she was looking into the camera, or rather looking at me. I looked up from the phone again and could not see her once more, so I looked back down at the
I like
screen
the
again.
stories that the
And I
camera
could
can
see
pick
her
it up, but you
closer
can't
to
see
me.
it with your naked eye.
I started to scream for Mike and Ryan as I sprinted away from that spot. I couldn't see their lights anywhere.
I feel like
Even
that's
their
only come, but people haven't been saying that until
So I ran back for the fence
cameras
of
could
the
shoot like
cemetery
in
to hop in
infrared
the
or
car.
night vision. Then all of a sudden, oh, you can
I
see
made it to
ghosts with
Ryan's
those
car
now.
and texted the two of them saying they need to get out of the cemetery now. They met me at the car minutes later. We all sat in the car and I showed them the video I took. They had the same horrified looks on their faces I did. Now that I was actually watching the whole video,
And now
I
she's
see the
in
woman
the
who
car.
slowly lifted her head from looking at the ground to looking at me, and then she starts to move towards me. We could only see her moving for like a second or two before I start screaming in the video and running away. But the way she was moving,
Before I start screaming the video and
old
pissing my
lady,
pants and
it
running
almost
away.
seemed as though she were floating to me. I have that video saved on my old iPhone 4S, but the stupid thing won't turn on. It gets stuck at the Apple logo. I don't want to reset that phone until I can get that video off of it somehow. My friends firmly believe the woman in the video was a real, living person who also happened to be in the cemetery that night. But me, having been the one to
You know, the
find her,
logical ones.
and only being able to see her on my phone screen, well, let's just say I was never a believer in the paranormal until that night.
Sometimes you see what you want to see. Because I've lost my train of thought. I was about to say something, but because with the when you because I'm like, if he's looking down and sees, because I thought that happened with me to me once. I thought I saw something on my phone, and it wasn't like I was in some creepy place. I was just walking around outside, and I just happened to be recording myself, and it was snowing. Well, it snowed. There's a lot of snow on the ground. And I just randomly, record myself for some reason and walking in the snow. And I could see someone walking behind me. They were quite a few feet back, probably 14, 15 feet back away from me. And they were walking behind me. And I could see them. And I was talking in my camera and stuff like that. And when I put my camera down like this, I do this thing sometimes with someone walking behind me, and I'm suspect of them, and I do like I'm looking around and I look with my peripheral vision behind me, and no one was there, and I look back, I was like, what the hell? So then I just kept walking. Camera's still recording now, and I'm still talking, recording, and I look up, and a person's back, on the camera. And I was like, what the fuck? And I wasn't gonna go like that. I was like, I don't want any more attention on myself. So it's like you live in Chicago, you don't want too much attention because you don't know what some people's intentions are. So I was like, and I'm walking through somebody else's neighborhood that I don't live there. So I was like, I'm not gonna draw attention to myself. And that person was back. I said, maybe I'm thinking myself, I was probably a different person that just came walking up on the curb or somebody. But I said, I didn't see anybody walk. Well, you ever seen someone walking across the street? But I was like, anyway. So I'm still talking to myself. Then my phone just stopped recording. I don't know, I had randomly, and I was like, all right. So I was like, well, I guess that's it. And I felt stupid recording myself talking like that. So I am not a vlogger. I just feel stupid walking around talking to myself on the camera. Okay, like I'm talking to myself now, but I'm in my own house, so I can do it. And I put the camera away because it just stopped recording. And I look back again, and I did the thing I do. I look kind of like I'm looking, and I use my peripheral, and nobody was there. And I look back, and it was a long street, so I would have seen them. They turned around, walked back, they crossed the street because there wasn't a whole lot of cars, which are weirdly on the other side of the street, but there were a lot on my side next to me. So I was like, and then that made me even more nervous. I'm like, this person went like out in the street behind on the other side of the cars, like sneaking up to try to get in front of me, or maybe get behind me and hit me with something, because that's happened. I've seen that happen here, where people, people, stupid kids are playing that damn knockout game or whatever, where if you can knock somebody out with one punch, you win or some shit like that, and they start. I've seen them playing in other states, like news reporting, and they played that shit here. Somebody got knocked out, actually not too far from where I was walking at. They got some, I think it was I can't remember. I don't think it was an elderly guy. Maybe I was like in his 40s, and apparently some teenagers they ran up behind him, and they said something. I don't know, the other teenager said something to get his attention, and as soon as he turned around, he did like a Superman punch. That punch to knock the dude out. But anyway, and I'm thinking that's like, I'm looking like it's like that exactly how. So I walked out because now I don't care, because now I'm nervous and I'm like, I need to get into either fight or flight mode, one or the other, and I can switch real quick between the two. And I look on the other side of the cars and no one was there, and I was like, I was like, maybe he got in the car and I didn't hear the door close, or maybe he didn't close the door all the way, but or maybe he walked into one of these houses and I didn't see, because the house is right next to me. There was a bunch of houses next to me, and I was just like, all right, and then I kind of just brushed it off, like whatever, and I ended up just deleting that video off my phone. I was like, because I was recording, I wasn't talking about shit. I was thinking about starting like a vlog of Chicago, and I was like, fuck it. I said, because I feel weird walking around talking to myself. But especially you talk about, I see people do that, walk around downtown, like vlogging in Chicago, vloggers here, and they be talking and stuff. No, but it's fun because no one pays attention to them. So, no, people just, or at least you don't see the people just walking by. Some people you see walking like the same way they are, they're walking fast enough. They'll glance up, but I guess you say, I've seen that in a lot of major cities I've been in. People don't usually make eye contact when they're walking, because they walking fast, they're trying to get to where they're going. Everyone's walking like they're late, or 5 minutes from being late, and no one really makes eye contact with one another, and you just, that's the way I see vloggers in New York, wherever, California, wherever they are, and they're just walking, they'll glance up because they'll see you record because you're doing something that's out of the ordinary. You don't see that too often. It's people, there's a lot of vloggers, but you don't see that like every 20th or 30th person, vlogging. That's a lot of people. Or every 100th person, I would say. One out of every 100 people that say they vlog, you don't see that too often. So you kind of like, because I've seen people doing that, recording or talking to themselves, especially if someone's FaceTime, they talking loud. I'm like, I just look up, it's just like a reaction. Anyway, The story I was gonna tell about the cemetery that I went to. I think I told this in another video, one of the other Mr. Nightmare videos. But I was trying to, not trying to. What am I talking about? I went to. I was. I think I wanted to say I went to. Now I was trying to. I went to a cemetery with a friend of mine. Well, actually, two friends of mine, and it wasn't the first time I did it. But this is the first time I actually done this at night. And well, wasn't really night. It was like it was late evening, but the sun was still kind of on the horizon. But it was a lot of trees in that area, so I mean, it might as well have been like dark, but it was still a little bit of light out, and it was let's say it was just enough light to where you could see enough, but the lights on the headlights on the cars were on, and we went to a cemetery. This is the one right across the street from us. We uh, climbed the big ass fence, and it was one of the only cemeteries that actually didn't have the spikes on the top of the fence. It was a chain link fence, big tall. It looked like that thing might have been 20 feet tall. Like it was a tall ass fence, and they had one of those big fancy gates on the front, like those barred gates, and they had like brick, um, like gate. Like there was a big brick, kind of like arch in the front and stuff like that. And it was remote. I remember it was remote control, and so we used to say that's the expensive, cause that's the expensive cemetery. Cause the one right across the street had their gate a little bit further down, but someone had to manually open it and close it, and that gate was just usually just open throughout the day. The other one was always closed because you had to buzz it, and someone would open it automatically. Someone would open it remotely, but we ended up climbing that fence. We had to wait till there was no cars because we didn't want someone to stop us saying there was no one was going to. But we just kids, and we was like we don't want to see us because we like somehow we're gonna get back to our parents. But we ended up climbing that fence, and our dumbasses just instead of climbing down the other side, we just jumped off the top of the fence. One boy, I think he said that he hurt his ankle, but he was walking, but he was kind of limping. So, but I'll say what happened afterward. Anyway, we walking through the cemetery looking at, and this is like they had pretty much like redone this cemetery, so everything of course was flat. And they had a section where they had the mausoleums and like really old tombstone. I mean, they had some like I remember seeing one. It looked like it said 1889 person died, and yeah, it was like really they were really old, and you could tell they were trying to maintain those tombstones. But we were going to like the mausoleum, but we couldn't go in because they were locked. But we were like climbing on top and shit, and I remember feeling weird because I was like, I'm the type of person I don't like walking over people's graves because it's not like any bad luck. I've heard people say it's like bad luck or something like that. I don't think it's that. I don't believe it's that, but I feel like it's disrespectful. Like someone said I danced on someone's grave, so I don't like walking on people's grave. Even though I've been in cemeteries where, like down south, where the graves are so packed together and they don't have them. They're packed and jagged at the same time. So they're like just put a person there, and because they don't have a whole lot of land for that cemetery, or they don't have a whole lot of land they want to devote to a cemetery. So and it's usually like a family cemetery. Someone's like, we need to bury our people, especially in this. I've had family cemeteries where they don't want to bury black people in the same cemetery as white people. So black people had their own cemeteries on their own land, and it was just they were they kind of jagged. They just bury them. They don't have them like in any order or say they got to be certain length apart because they don't have they don't devote a whole lot of land to that. But especially when you think we don't have that many people dead yet, but people die all the time. People get added to that cemetery, but then of course people start getting buried and just I guess regulated cemeteries. But anyway, they would, and when you step, I mean, those are kind of hard not to step on people's because they're just so tightly packed and jagged. You have to walk just around the perimeter of the whole thing, and they're usually not fenced in either. But anyway, we were walking around, and on the far end, because we didn't actually walk that far away from the front gate. Ironic, what the part of the gate was, because they had multiple entrances on, because it was roads that went around the whole cemetery, so they had an entrance on. Let's just say they had entrance. They didn't have entrance on. If you're gonna go directions, say they didn't have one on the south side. I said that's the one in front of my apartment, because that was a street and a big. It was gonna have a ditch right there. They had one on the let's say the west side. They didn't have one on the north side. They had one on the east side. Let's just say that. And the east side is the one we jumped over. That was the closest one to our apartment complex. And all of a sudden, you could see the lights, like from the headlights on the road, because like I said, it was flat. So even far away, you could see the lights on the road, headlights. And it was getting, now at this point, it was actually almost dark, and it was pitch black in there. And funny enough, it was like, I can't remember if it was a full moon or a half moon. Moon was out. And we saw, well, I saw something. I don't know if because so one guy, he didn't even want to talk about it, but he saw something, and it was dark. Plus, with the moonlight and a few trees they had around there, it was kind of hard to make it out. But it was like if it was a person, they were dressed in all black, and they were like, it like they were moving real fast. They were running, and the first thing that tipped us off was like it was like a scream, but not. It was weird. It's the only sound that I could think of right now that sounded at least close to it was if you've seen 30 Days a Night, a vampire movie. It's also a book, or I think it's a graphic novel or a book. Anyway, it sounded like those vampires, like when they inhale. I can't do that noise, but it sounded similar to that, but it was much louder. And then because first we heard like rustling, like someone was walking on, because they had gravel roads in there at this time. Then they paved them over. I think like a year later, but at this time they had gravel, so you could hear like people walking. You could hear the gravel. You walk on it. Plus, it was like some dead leaves in there. Because if I remember correctly, I think this was around fall. And you could hear some of the crunching of the leaves in there. And because you could hear it. But at first I thought it was us. And I remember he was like, stop moving. And you could still hear crunch. And we thought it could have been the guy, because they had security there as well. And it was like 24-hour security. So it was a security guard always there. You could see he even had like a golf cart he would drive in like around the thing. And he didn't wear all black. This security guard wore like he wore regular, like I've seen the security guard, but he wore like a polo shirt. It was like it wasn't. I don't think they had the uniforms. I think they just probably told, hey, wear like a polo shirt with khakis or something like this. Look casual, business casual or something. And also we heard that. We took off. We heard the scream. So we heard the rustling and we heard the scream. And that's when we saw something like moving. It was like it was running towards. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't think it was like, it wasn't moving like supernaturally. It was like it was moving so fast. It was just running really fast, like a really fast runner. And that's what that probably was somebody fucking around with us. And we took off back to the defense. And I don't think I've ever scaled a fence so fast in my life. Other than probably when I was like, probably like 9. Might have been younger than that. Might have been like 8. I'm trying to remember what exactly I was doing that. And a dog like was chasing us. me and my friend, and I jumped the fence. And I mean, the fence wasn't that tall. It wasn't like as tall as the one at the cemetery, but it was pretty tall. It was taller than me, way taller than me. It was probably like at that age, probably like if you stack two more of me on top of each other, probably like that tall. And I jumped down, and I ripped my clothes because it had one of those. It had like it was a chain link fence, but you know, it had like the little metal like pieces on the sharp metal parts on the top. So I ended up ripping my shirt on that damn thing. But I just threw the shirt away. I was like, I ain't getting my ass whooping my dad, so I just threw the shirt in the trash. But they keep lowering the price of this anti-pirate shit. They like, please, just buy it. It was $24.99, now it's $19. Come on, get it. But we climbed that fence. But it's weird because we climbed the fence. We didn't look back. I didn't even look back until we climbed the fence. This time we didn't jump over the other side. We actually climbed down like halfway and then jumped off the fence. And we looked, and that's when I looked because I was facing the cemetery, and nothing was there. We saw the security guard like coming up with his flashlight, like he was running up. But I was like, no, they got it. Whoever that was running, it didn't have a flashlight. Plus, like I said, the security guard was wearing like he had like khaki pants. You could see him. You could still see him. And he had like khaki pants on. And because at this point it was like dark, but it was still the sun had went down a little bit more. But it was you could still make out like stuff. Plus, I was like he had like the security had a big flashlight on. He's like running towards the fence. We took off and started running. My friend, when I was talking about when he landed on the other side of the fence, I found out next day he said he twisted his ankle, but because he was limping the whole day. And I was like, I don't know how he climbed that fence that second time, but I guess fear, because he jumped that fence just as fast as other. I can't remember what was his name. I think his name was Andrew. I'm horrible remembering people's names. I can see his face now, but I haven't seen him since 5th grade because he was still living. We still live in the same apartment complex, so I did see him, but for a little bit. No, it was 6th grade because he moved. Because I moved at the last month of about 6th grade year. He moved like around December time, somewhere else. So, but he was a cool dude. And I can't even remember what the other guy looked like. The other guy was there. Oh yeah, I remember. Damn, I can't remember his name. I remember he was a Mexican. He had real nice parents. A badass little brother. But anyway, yeah, that's my story. I can't make it creepy. I'm not Mr. Nightmare of Unit 522 and these other narrators. I guess I could get real dark and hit black and white and put a film reel over it and talk like
Barry White, just deepen my voice. So I'm talking to like a voice modulators. Like then he turned around and screamed and
Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.